what is the one asset that you're putting money into?
That's tricky because I think, if I were to guess the best performing one would be Bitcoin. Um, I might go with silver just because I know like it'll never like there's almost nothing that can go wrong when you're broke after 20 years. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, even if you go back to the dot-com bubble, there were companies that we know today that were back then. I mean, Amazon was part of the dot-com bubble, and their stock price
Mm.
got ahead of themselves temporarily, but they were one of the ones that
Yeah,
really did make
right.
use of the internet and really kind of came out as a
Yeah.
giant. And I mean, even looking at Bitcoin, that is one of those things where finally a piece of the puzzle came in. And so a lot, what Satoshi did was he didn't invent blockchain. He just basically took existing things that were kind of separate and he solved a problem that people have been trying to solve with the right mix of solutions. And so Bitcoin was the first one to succeed on, say, eCash in ways that the previous types of eCash didn't. And so I think it's like we're seeing that now, and we'll see kind of the wars between the utility protocols, and we'll see if we end up with multiple utility protocols, or if we end up with kind of one or two dominant utility protocols. We'll see how that sorts out. But overall, I do think that the overall industry has a ton of promise. And like I said, I'm really watching the Strike Global thing to see, to what extent that takes off. I do think it's good that a lot of these programs are kind of poking the existing system and kind of finding ways to do things better. And it's a shame that there's a lot of scams in the industry that it's kind of tied to speculation, and so people they naturally pour into the riskier parts of the market, and then they end up by the time the cycle's done, you're back in a bear market. It's kind of like, well, how much did you benefit from it? Because if you got into the really long tail of alts, a lot of those statistically don't make it a full couple market cycles. If you got into leverage, you might have been right on certain things, but then when the bear market, you get wiped out. And it's just really the people that are kind of focusing on the really long term and kind of keeping their risk in check that I think will benefit from this.
Yeah, I do want to push back just a little bit on that. Speculation kind of gets painted with this broadly negative brush in the space. Like, if you go back to 2017, there would always be these arguments kind of pitting speculation on one hand versus utilization on the other. And, people would kind of say, well, we have all this speculation right now, and it's not particularly good for anything. What we really need is real utility, people using these products. And on the one hand, I absolutely agree with that. You do need utility, you need adoption, you need people actually using the stuff. But I think what that ignores is that speculation is the mechanism that draws all these people and capital into this space, and that ends up fueling and building the next wave of companies, right? So if you look at, go back to 2017 and 2018 during that run-up, I'm sure there were some negative outcomes for people that got over their skis, but one thing that it did do is it brought all this tremendous attention to the space, and it drew in that next wave of funds and capital and entrepreneurs that kind of built some of these mega projects right now. So now, kind of fast forward to 2021, hopefully, we're at least partial, midway through a bull run. Hopefully there's longer to go. But I think some of the companies that got started around that time are starting to bear fruit, right? And you're starting to see these huge rounds being raised for these, tremendous infrastructure companies like, Chainalysis and Paxos. But I think, the positive externalities of this run-up, they haven't even really been felt yet, which is that next wave of entrepreneurs, that are getting bit by the bug, they are just starting to kind of go down the rabbit hole and learn about this space. And I'd be willing to bet that some of the real unicorns, or kind of the Facebooks of crypto, those are just starting to get built. And I don't even think we've seen them yet.
I agree. Yeah, it might be one of those things where it's good that speculation happens. You just don't want to be on the wrong side of it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be over leveraged or in the wrong coins.
No, you definitely do not. All right, Lyn, I've got a couple of closing questions for you here. You've already been super, super generous with your time, but what is the best non-financial investment that you've ever made?
Probably just being healthy, focusing on eating super healthy, exercising, and basically just kind of avoiding processed foods and kind of eating healthy. It's funny, like my website's almost entirely financial articles, and then I have one health article or fitness article, and it's like 9,000 words. And it's one of the most popular articles on the site just because it's kind of written the same style as all my financial articles. Like there's tons of charts and like but it's like all about just fitness. And so that that's I think been one of the most important things, just overall staying in shape, and also just travel, seeing the world.
That's a really good answer. Also, I would add sleep to that as well.
Yes.
Like, there are some people that can operate on 4 hours of sleep. I am not one of those people. I need more sleep than that.
My husband's one of those people. Yeah, I don't.
It's such an advantage. It's crazy. I wish I was like that. I wish I could sleep 4 hours a night, but
yeah,
you do not want to see me after 4 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, next question. What is a period of time in your life where you have felt the most at risk? That could be during a particular investment or a trade or just, a certain development that's going on. What's just a period of time in your life where you felt particularly at risk?
I mean, certainly when I was getting out of college, because I graduated during the great financial crisis, and had student debt, and so it's basically, basically our society has focused so much on that idea of taking out student debt, going through college, and of course I was lucky to be in one of the majors where that makes sense. I mean, I did engineering, and it's one of the things where having a degree really helps, and so I was able to find a good paying job and pay back those loans. But basically the idea of just being financially vulnerable, of having a negative net worth, just, everything kind of felt fragile in a sense. And so that's just, it wasn't a great time in terms of feeling vulnerable, feeling risky in a sense.
Well, it seems like everything is working out now. So yeah. I'm glad that all worked out. Okay, last question for you here. If you had to make an investment in one asset, and immediately after making that investment, you go into a coma for 20 years. So no knowledge, no ability to make any adjustments. What is the one asset that you're putting money into?
That's tricky because I think, if I were to guess the best performing one would be Bitcoin. I might go with silver just because I know like it'll never, like there's almost nothing that can go wrong when you're broke after 20 years. So I guess if I had to pick only one, it'd be silver. But I think it'll underperform a lot of other assets. But it won't go down 50% or something over a 20-year period unless you buy it during a bubble. Like we bought it in 1980, it underperformed for a long time. So I would say silver when silver's not in a bubble.
Was the 80s when the Hunt brothers were doing their thing?
Yeah. So silver hit 50, and it didn't reach that price again until 2011. But if you look at the chart, it was like silly. It was like vertical, and so as long as you don't buy silver when it's vertical, it might be dead money, but you won't lose your money, and you might gain a lot of money.